What's up, Cats fans? Paul here from the Hoops crew, and it is the morning after a victory. Thank the Lord for that. After 4 straight losses, we've finally broken the back of this losing streak that we're on with a win against the Tigers. And let's kind of pull apart what happened here, because there's plenty of positives that we can start to identify and things that might sow some seeds of hope again as we kind of enter the back end of the season. But there's also some elements that I'm still not so happy to see. So let's jump into the top level information so far. The Cats got it done 15-9-99 versus the Tigers 10-9-69. And the worrying thing, I guess, the first out the gate worrying thing is that worm. Now, things clicked very late in the second term, like red time in the second term. Basically, the deal was sealed at that particular point. The Tigers only went on to kick 3 goals for the remainder of the game. But, and all credit to Ollie Dempsey, who was really the spark in that, kicking 2 back-to-back goals. But again, it was a scenario, and I tweeted it out during the game. It was another one of those scenarios of the Cats giving up a lead, a big lead, because of a run of goals. And you can see it, like the string of kind of consecutive, Richmond they weren't doing it in big blocks like what we've seen in recent weeks, but, they get 2, 3 on the trot. We get one back and then bang straight away, get one back, bang straight away. And then that becomes another 2. Like they, it's the same thing that we've kind of seen in recent weeks against the Power or the Suns or, whoever it happens to be. Even last week, we give up these runs of goals and then have to honorably try and chase it down. And I've been beating this drum for a while, and obviously we've all seen it for years. We think back to the 2016-17 period, and there's finals that we can think of where we gave up massive head starts, and that's it. The game was done. And we're still seeing signs of that. Now, Richmond aren't the caliber of team of some of those other ones that I mentioned, and so that's why I think the lead was a pretty assailable one. It ended up becoming a 59-point turnaround from that point that Ollie Dempsey kicked that goal to the end of the game. It was 59 points swing at that particular point. Great. It's awesome that we were able to achieve that, but we should never have found ourselves in the situation to begin with. And I keep beating this drum, but I need to hit it harder, apparently, because the message isn't getting through. We need to come with that intensity from the get-go. So let's now flick over to some of the player stats and talk about some of the highlights and those sorts of things there before I then kind of hone in on some team-wide stats that I think, again, will kind of paint a picture or help paint the picture that I'm trying to depict for us today. So we'll filter over to the Cats side of things, and we'll look at the midfield group. Now, things took a little bit of time to get going for some individuals in the team today, but it was a better team midfield unit this week. And we do see it. And actually, I might bounce over the team stats now and then revert back to this particular one, because it'll help kind of, again, I think paint the picture a little bit. The clearance numbers, we were getting smashed in there pretty early, but we end up coming out 45-38, and the centre clearance is 15-9. We really started to strong arm the Tigers in this regard in the second half of the match. But the first half, they were having their way for a while. And again, that first quarter, I think there was one point we were down, I think it was like 11-4 clearances. We started really sluggishly in that area, and it's not okay. But the overall worked out really well for us. I'm quite surprised that we got belted in the hitouts numerically as much as we did. It looked like Toby Conway was actually faring all right against Big Nank, but apparently not. Or there's a lot of others around the ground that I'm losing sight of. But what I want to hone in on a little bit here, whereas it is the efficiency. Now, we end up losing the efficiency inside 50 and the disposal efficiency, actually. But the disposal inside 50 is the one that I really want to hone in on. In that first half, and I took a bit of a look going into pretty late in the second quarter, I guess just before Ollie Dempsey kicked those couple of goals. And our efficiency inside 50 was like high 20s, low 30s, if I recall. Like it was considerably down on what it ended up becoming. And that's just not okay. And I think that's where, and I'm sure if we were to go back and, check this stat for all of those losses over the course of the last month, that's where things have fallen over. But what you could see in that second half, and it's not about, the forwards clunking marks and those sort of things. They can only work with what is at their disposal. And that's why we saw Jeremy Cameron moving up the ground during the game. Now, firstly, he's badly out of form right now and needs a little bit of extra TLC and needs a bit of time to get his hands on the Sharon just to get himself up and about again. And you could see things starting to turn. I think Jeremy needs a little bit more love over the course of the week and in the next week just to just to try and get his hands on it. And I know we've got a very tough opponent coming up, but a little bit of love for Jeremy would be great, just to kickstart his season again. But it's not really the forwards who have been lacking. And a lot's been said about Tom Hawkins. He had a pretty good night last night. Jeremy Cameron was getting there. Shannon Neal did a pretty good job. Ollie Henry had a bit of a dirty one and then went off with hamstring awareness. Gary Rowan came in, was all right as well. There was a lot that was said about us kind of going pretty tall and maybe not stacking the midfield like we could have and should have. And obviously I was beating the drum for Mitch Hardy to come in this week, and that didn't happen. We'll get there. But the efficiency inside 50, the delivery to the forwards, has been this major issue for us. And in that second half, we really course corrected. We started to kind of move the ball in ways that we've seen in those first 7 games. That fluidity came back, and the connection was there, and you could see the links up the field and how players were making space for each other. Everything seemed to click again, and I'm hoping that is a level of momentum that we can bring into the Sydney game, because this is going to be a very tough match coming up. Unbelievably tough opponent. The clear and deserving flag favourites right now. We're going to be up against it. And it was awesome to see that in that second half, again, lowly opponent, but you can only beat who is there. You could see the wheels starting to turn again and that connection starting to reform. And it was really, really exciting. So efficiency inside 50, it's a stat that I'm hoping that the Cats are paying close attention to over the course of the week. But it begins with that midfield group, really. If they can get their hands on the ball, if they can get clean disposal and set teammates up, the forwards will do it. The backs will push up and they'll support as well. You could see, and I noticed it a few times, Cole Jasny creeping into the forward line at different points there. It's because we had that almost full court press sort of model. The whole team pushed in to firstly box the Tigers in, but also they were all part of that chain, linking it forward. It was really good to see, and it was a shame Collar didn't get another shot on goal. But also he's got a bit of a track record of kicking a goal and then us going on to lose. So I'm okay with Collar not kicking any goals for the rest of his career at this point. But otherwise, it paints a rosy picture. Let's not lose sight of the fact that for the first time in 2024, we actually won the free kick count. We were getting smacked in there at one point. The second half, things changed a little bit, and I think it wasn't because the umpires realised, the home team, we better give them a bit of love, and the fans booing and those sort of things. Though, get loud, Cats fans. It was more the fact that the pressure on the ball was up. We got first hands on it. And so high tackles come. And other sorts of illegal acts from the Tigers started to creep into their game. And the pressure went up, and they're feeling the pressure. All those sorts of things. It all... the out of bounds on the full. We gave up a few of those in very unusual fashion, but they were giving them up as well. And that's simply because the pressure was up from the Cats. Turnovers, about the same, whatever. Not making too much of that. Marks, you could see, again, that fluidity, especially in the second half. I wish we could get that split quarter to quarter for these sorts of stats, but that's where we really kind of excelled. We're still a little bit vulnerable going forward at different stages. And if I use that as an opportunity to segue over to the team stats, and I'll bring up both. Where are we? Oh, hang on, not Tigers, both. McKelty Lafau, he had for a bloke who had 7 disposals for the night, had a pretty good night. He became a real focus point. The way we were spoiling the ball wasn't always the most effective. We also kind of got outbodied on a few occasions by some players that, we don't like shape and size. We shouldn't really be losing to yet because they're still developing. So that was a bit disappointing. But again, the delivery in those early stages of the game was great from Richmond because we couldn't get our hands on it. So again, I think all these things are pretty tightly interconnected. But if we now hone in on the Cats and what some of our players did, a lot has been said about Ollie Dempsey so far, and that was a sensational effort. He picked the Cats up on his shoulders late in that second quarter, finished the game with 27 disposals, kicked 3 goals. And honestly, with all the talk about Sam Darcy and Harley Reid, there's no reason to think why he couldn't be a real smoky for the Rising Star at this particular point, because he's had a sensational season up to this point. I know there've been some people calling out for him to have a rest, the Cats, and obviously he'd had 1 or 2 quiet games, but also it wasn't that long ago that despite the fact we got pumped by the Suns, he had close to 30 disposals again. Ollie Dempsey's had a fantastic season, and I'd like to see him remain in the team. And as long as he keeps kicking 3 goals a game, he's not going anywhere. But beyond that, again, I talked about the midfield group and how things lifted. And you can see, like, Max Holmes has been doing Max Holmes things for quite a while now. He's had an absolutely sensational season and should be in the conversation for All-Australian, but certainly right up there at the pointy end of the Cats' best and fairest. I've been, and I keep talking about beating the drum today, but I have been banging the Jack Bowes drum since the moment he walked into the club, because he's going to be, he's a wonderful addition for the Cats. And his time in the midfield, especially in that second half when we needed to lift, was immense. He was everywhere, especially in that third term, I think it was, where he kicked a goal himself. He was clearing, like, those clearance numbers, sensational. Him and Tom Atkins, which is brutal in the center clearance. We spoke a bit about Tom Atkins needing to go back into the midfield and do the work there. He was amazing, both with the clearance numbers, but also the tackling numbers, right up for both. It was awesome. You know, and then he got the support of Max with the outside run, Ollie Dempsey with the outside run coming off the wing at different points. Tom Atkins, obviously himself, Tanner Bruin had another great game. Things clicked a bit. And if they can bring that momentum into next week with the Swans, and if they can at least break even with a stellar midfield, we're going to be in this game up to our eyeballs. And then then danger comes back, and Cam Guthrie's not far away. And we're going to get the senior heads who can, who will bring that defensive push, but can be offensive weapons as well. They all start to come back into it. This was a great sign, especially in that second half. And I really hope that they can bottle that. They can look at what happened, look at the difference between the first and the second halves, and work out what is it that we need to do to replicate that second half more often. Because we know the game plan. We know what happens when it works. But they've kind of lost their way for about the last 4.5 matches. And I'm just relieved that we're playing a lowly opponent, that we were able to kind of claw it all back. I mentioned Jeremy Cameron before, started to claw his way back into the game, 100% game time. His body's fine. Unlike last year, where he'd obviously been knocked senseless by Gary Rowan. He was carrying some injuries and those sorts of things. He's up and about again. He's in good shape in that regard. He just can't get his hands on the ball. The Cats helped him to get his hands on the ball in the second half, got a goal himself. You could see signs, but we need to see more of it. Just keep feeding him the ball a little bit over the course of the next little while. Toby Conway, I thought, did a great job, but let's check those hit-out numbers. He got 21. I'd be interested to kind of see. I was talking about the hit-outs before. Oh, no. Nank had 51. Okay. I thought it might have been the likes of Samson Ryan getting some elsewhere around the ground, but no. Toby got smoked. So let's go back to that. We'll keep scrolling down the list. Tyson Stengel doing Tyson Stengel things, a little bit quieter, but also the rest of the team stepped up around him. 5 clearances. I want to make sure I celebrate Brad Close, who's been hot and cold a little bit this year, but had a great linking game. Brian Myers was a little bit down. He's kind of in a couple of weeks where he's just not quite excelling in ways that he has over the course of the season. I'm trying to find him here. No goal assists. I don't know the score involvements, but let me bring that up. Score involvements. He's even down on his usual output there as well. Where is he? Grind. Where are you? Grind. Yeah. He's been pretty well held by opponents at the moment. And so actually, and look, there you go. Grind kind of has, last night kind of represented the woes of the Cats. Disposal efficiency, 25%. If I explore that stat a little bit further, that's the worst of the Cats. It might be the worst on the ground. And we don't beat up on Grind because he's an absolute legend. He's in a bit of a rough patch at the moment. Hopefully he kind of finds his way out of it nice and soon. He's also always trying to attack, and that's not always going to work. So he's a bit of a byproduct of the way we want him to play the game as well. Look, overall, there's a lot, I think, to be really positive about in the end. There are some areas of improvement still required. I think curbing the influence of the opposition midfield is still a thing in that defensive pressure, but it was a nice step in the right direction when we saw Tommy Atkins back in there, when we could see Tanner and Jack Bowes bringing the pressure that they were bringing. It was a really good midfield performance in the end. It just took a little while to get going, and I hope that was kind of the flick the switch moment in that third and fourth term that will carry us well into Danger's return, into Cam Guthrie's return, and into a charge towards finals in the second half of the season. Cats fans, let me know in the comments what you think. If there's anything or anyone that I didn't discuss, please let me know in the comments and celebrate those people, because we want to really pump them up. What changes should be made going into the next game? Should Mitch Hardy be in? Let us know what you think. Check out the Hoops Crew on all social media platforms. You can find me at Paul James Games on socials, including Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. That's my preferred go-to these days. Thank you very much to our sponsor, Valhalla Brewing, who's been doing an amazing job. Thank you for all of your support. Check out our Patreon. Cats fans, remain Geelong strong, and I'll see you later.